Trashy Romance by J. Wilburn. Filth Johnson laid on his back in a thin spread of garbage over loose, wet dirt. He was uncharacteristically clean. He and Jewel had found a stash of clothes still in the plastic, so he wore and jacket with a crisp black t-shirt. It was no substitute for armor. That's what Jewel told him, and as always, she was right. Something oily and warm seeped through the back of his pants. That wasn't something he normally noticed, but wearing clean clothes made it more obvious. Filth brought... I left a letter off there. That's what editing's for. Filth brought his finger up to his lip and hissed out a short shh to the sky. Even the sky was clear and clean today, almost blue in this unusual break in the smog. His finger tasted like syrup and earwax. It could have been from anything, really. Putting on new clean clothes didn't suddenly wash him up pristine and pure. The marauders closed in on him from all sides. At least they appeared to be out of projectiles, but that wouldn't matter much now that they were going to get close enough to beat him to death on the ground. He rolled to the side and pulled one fellow off his feet at the bends in his knees. Instead of knocking the guy backward and away, Filth pulled the attacker down on top of him. He chose this guy because he was big and he was carrying a bat instead of something sharp. To beat all, the bat didn't even have any spikes through it, nor was it wrapped in barbed wire the way the kids were doing these days. Filth balled up underneath the guy's bulk. The big man tried to bite Filth at first, but only got a mouthful of hair. After that, he tried to get off of him and take his naked bat with him, but Filth held on tight and wouldn't let the poor giant go. As Filth expected, his the giant's friends. The giant's friends wouldn't wait any longer, and they, spelled correctly now, started trying to beat and chop their way through their own guy. Wow. When you misspell a word into another word, it gets confusing. Through their own guy to get to Filth. The poor sucker screamed in Filth's face and ear. He let go of the bat, but still tried to flail away. The guy drooled on Filth's cheek, and some of the spittle blocked one of Filth's nostrils and trailed a little into his mouth. He licked it away from his teeth, but couldn't taste the difference. The drool turned pink, and then the guy started coughing up bloody spatter across Filth's face. Blades and bats with sharper points struck the ground around the edges of the big body. Filth tried to stay small, but he felt himself getting nicked. On one thigh, the hip on the other side, and a deep slash above and behind one elbow. He wasn't hurt badly yet, but time wasn't on his side, and he didn't have much of a plan. Let me put a comma there. All right. The weapons started dropping around him, kicking up dust and crunching against crumpled plastic trash. The bodies collapsed on all sides of him as well. Filth had no good explanation for this. The guy on top reared up with blood painted down one side of his face. Instead of falling away from his many wounds, he grabbed up an axe and made to swing it at Filth's face. The guy wasn't about his simple bat anymore. Filth caught the handle and tried to wiggle out from under the giant, but now the guy wasn't interested in getting away. He bore his weight down and pushed the blade toward Filth's throat. The big man jarred, and all the strength went out of his attack. Filth watched the guy's eyes glaze over and his mouth go slack. The dead weight pressed down harder. Filth grunted and rolled hard to one side, getting the dead weight off of him. Filth scrambled to his feet, holding that silly little smooth bat. The giant had a thick arrow embedded into the base of his skull. Filth looked around to see all the other arrows in their heads and necks. All the others with arrows in their heads and necks as well. Some of them were still choking and thrashing as they finished dying, but not most. He scanned the rolling dunes of garbage and spotted Jewel Gunk atop one of the tallest in the middle distance. She waved at him with her bow and turned as she ran down the other side of the pile and out of sight. He had signaled her to stay quiet. If she had, she could have been long gone before they were ever done with him. Of course, he would never let her sacrifice herself for him either. They might both die as a result of this mutual character flaw. The engines roared behind him, and the buggies made of little more than open metal frames and rough-shod motors bounded over the piles of garbage behind him. The spiked wheels threw busted plastic containers, molding clothes, and festering foodstuffs into the air behind them. He turned and ran between the high garbage dunes that Jewel had topped a moment ago. As the buggies roared and buzzed behind him in pursuit, he realized he was carrying the naked bat and no other weapons. He had a selection of blades and severe bludgeons to choose from all around a moment ago, but he stood around gawking, and now he just had this stupid bat. Of course, everyone who held all those great weapons had died. Some of them were still dying. Filth turned his head just before he put more piles of garbage between him and the pursuers. The spiked wheels tore right over the top of those fallen men, so no, they were all definitely dead now. He weaved between the dunes and the open ground as the buggies turned through the paths quickly. He then cut through some tight spaces, but the buggies ramped right over the top and closed the distance. Armored men hung onto the metal frames. They hooted and hollered as they waved their weapons at Filth. He found yet tighter spaces. Filth ran up the crumpled side of a doorless refrigerator. He had no idea what refrigerators used to do, but that's what everyone still called them. He ran across the rusted tops of 3 car chassis and then leapt far to the ground on the other side. A shiver of pain shot up from his ankle through the back of his leg. Filth cursed as he limped 3 staggering steps, but then took on a normal stride, refusing to acknowledge the pain. He had no time to get hurt in a stupid way. He wanted to watch, but needed to cross. He wanted to watch what happened next, but needed to cross the open space to the next canyon of trash in a hurry. One buggy shot up the side of the refrigerator and flipped over. One guy hanging on the back and waving a bat wrapped in barbed wire broke his neck under the rolling vehicle. The others bailed and moved to turn over the buggy. It wasn't heavy and wouldn't be difficult, but the other drivers tore by without pause or regard. They snapped one man's ankle and sent him tumbling into the sharp bits of trash, screaming in pain. Another tried to clear the path, but was pulled under and run over by a half-dozen spiked wheels from 3 different buggies. There wasn't much left of him. Let me fix that. There wasn't much left of him, so he died quietly. That was just fewer mouths to feed and fewer people to have to split any rewards with. Another buggy struck the metal car head on and through. That's the wrong kind of through. I really don't like making homophone spelling errors. I feel like those make me look dumber. And then threw the rider forward to be killed instantly. The others cut to the right and left, tearing along the walls of loose garbage, nearly turned loose garbage. Okay. The other vehicles, let's say, cut to the right and left, tearing along the walls of loose garbage, nearly turned sideways. Okay, I'm going to leave it. As they flew off the other side, the last vehicles fell level, but there was no ground to land on. They dumped into a deep ditch with sheer sides. Not all of them died right away, but the unlucky survivors had too many broken bones to climb out. Filth ran on. He didn't hear the engines anymore, but that only made him feel marginally safer. As he slowed to squeeze between a radiator and a wiry rack of mattress spring, a woman's voice called, "Filth, wait up." He turned his head with a smile. Jewel? It wasn't Jewel. A big woman with lots of missing teeth swung her gnarly axe over her head to split him down the middle. He sliced himself pretty good as he stumbled through the narrow gap too quickly. She brought the axe down hard into the dirt where he had been standing less than a second ago. Filth rolled over and came up on his feet. She barreled through the obstruction, sending heavy pipes and squeaky springs flying. She swung across her body, and Filth tried to deflect, but she chopped through his bat and sent splinters scattered to the wind in all directions. Filth spit bits of wood out as he stumbled backward. It was a stupid weapon, not even wrapped in barbed wire. She stomped toward him, bringing the axe around for another attack. He turned and ran, knowing that was all the time she would need to finish him off. 3 arrows punched into her side, one after the other, climbing up her body. The one in her thigh dug in deep. It did not come out the other meaty side, but the arrowhead, I guess that's a compound word, hold on. Yes, it is. The arrowhead bulged dark like a malignant tumor. The second arrow punctured her side at the hip and scraped against bone, causing it not to go deep. The third arrow took her in the neck, but at an angle that didn't make it immediately clear how much damage was done. Okay. I'm missing some parts of this story. What happened? I'm gonna have to finish the story because part of what I wrote is gone. That's crazy. All right, she hesitated only for a second. She continued her swing after that. Filth Johnson threw himself sideways and just avoided being cleaved, but there he was on the ground again with no weapon and no plan. She brought the axe up yet again and heaved forward as if she weren't sprouting arrows. Where is the rest of this story? I may have not saved part of the story, and like the whole point of it is missing. Oh, that's insane. All right, hold on just a moment. I'm going to indulge myself here and see if I can find where that was. So I'm going to pull up my archive, and I keep an archive of stories in Trello, but I'm betting the one in Trello is wrong too. So I'm going to see what I can do here. All right, so I'm looking for, I can let you guys see this part. I'm looking for Trashy Romance. Let me get over to the T's. I can't believe that happened. All right, Trashy Romance. So I'm going to download this. No, that's the picture. I don't even have the story attached. Holy smokes. Okay. I really made a mess of things here. Alright, full screen. Let me get back into the story here. What a mess. Alright. I'm going to have to finish writing this story. Alright, so let's go ahead and do that. I can't believe I lost what I wrote there. I know I had it. I wonder what happened. Well, that's a kick in the pants. Can't believe I lost half a story. I guess I didn't save the last time, and then when I restarted a computer at some point, I lost what I'd written. That is a real shame. All right. Well, let's do what we did here. All right. She brought the axe up yet again and heaved forward as if she weren't sprouting arrows. A sword erupted from her open mouth like a magic, say like a sharp magic tongue. Like a sharp magic tongue. Alright. I'm going to need to make sure to save this as I go. cannot believe I lost the last part of the story. Like, I have this whole system in place to not do that, and I didn't follow it. So here I go. All right, just like the monk, I'm losing my memory. A sword erupted from her mouth like a sharp magic tongue. It twisted, and the edges of the blade ground against her teeth. Okay, let's see. As the big woman collapsed to her side, her axe spun out of her grasp. Filth rolled to the side. And the gnarly blade planted itself in the grimy dirt. The big woman hit the ground hard enough to shake it under Filth's back. Jewel Gunk. All right, let me just make that a new paragraph here. Jewel Gunk drew her sword. Drew her blade from the dead enemy. She fed it back through the loop on her belt at her hip without cleaning off the blood first. She set aside her bow and laid down on top of Filth. You're not doing so well today. He smiled up at her. Smelling the familiar vinegary tang of her breath, he said, "I can't complain so far." Right. She leaned down and they kissed, warm and sticky. As she pulled away, she took her bow and his hand to help him to his feet again. He came in for another kiss. and she made no move to stop him. But then the high buzz of buggy engines whined through the air just beyond the mounds of garbage, concealing them for the moment. All right. Make sure I'm saving it this time so I don't lose everything I wrote. All right. They took each other's hands. Took each other's hand. I guess we make that singular because each one's holding one hand. They took each other's hand, and the layers of grime, let's say, stuck together between their palms and around their interlaced fingers. Let's say together they ran through the hills of trash to find a place where they could be together. All right.